All right, Leo, thanks so much for being a guest on Wicked Smart Golf podcast, man. Excited to talk with you today and learn more about your super inspiring journey at such a young age.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, you've done a lot. I appreciate you reaching out and glad we were able to connect, and we'll definitely be staying connected. It'll be a theme of our podcast here. But let's before we get into all you're doing right now with social media and helping golfers, like we got to rewind because you've been crushing it since you were like tiger young. I mean, this is super impressive. So you got started at 3 years old, is that right?
Yeah, started playing golf when I was 3 years old, man.
That is wild. Like at 3 years old, I don't even think like I was walking yet. I feel like you're over here just like swinging golf clubs. Like that's impressive. So you got started at three, and then you said you were playing tournaments by 7 years old.
Yeah, so I started competing when I was 7 years old. I also did karate while I was doing that. So those two kind of things were my thing growing up. I played a ton of competitive golf, playing U.S. Kids, South Florida PGA, first tee events, and I loved competing, man. Like it just drove me every single day. And doing karate as well. Like I ended up being a black belt in karate. So like you're just really motivated to be good and focused in what I was doing. But I played a ton of junior golf. I ended up being a top 20 junior golfer in the country by the time I graduated and played Division I golf at UCF. So like it was a pretty cool journey. I learned a ton throughout the process and I'm super grateful.
That's inspiring, man. I was looking at your resume before I hit record here. So you've been a member of the Venezuelan National Team, three-time member of Florida Cup team, nominated as a 2019 Rolex Junior All-American, honorable mention, having reached top 20 Rolex rankings. Like these are impressive, man. So you obviously crushed it at a young age. What was that like? Like, I mean, I was a terrible golfer until I was like 18, and even then I wasn't very good. So like, what was that like growing up? Were you just like obsessed with the game? Were you always like reading, watching, playing? Like, take us, kind of through what where the passion even came from.
Yeah, it came from my dad. I was very inspired to be like a good golfer at a young age. I don't know really where, like how it started. I was three. I don't remember when I was three swinging a club. But as far as I can remember, I've been playing golf and man, it was awesome. I won my first four tournaments. So like off the rip, like I was already winning. So I was very confident that I was like the best player around and the guy to beat type thing. And I'm not even trying to say that to be cocky or anything, but like it just kind of how it was. And I'm super grateful my dad gave me the opportunity to play a ton of tournaments. And in the beginning, the tournaments were local, like a lot of US kids. I won a ton of like Player of the Year awards for US kids. Like I got used to winning at a very young age, so it just drove me to continue to do it. Like I was like, there's no other option. Like I'm the best player in the world. Let's go. Like let's keep going. I've always had that mindset. I've always been disciplined to work. And I don't know, I feel like you just got to have that dog in you when you need it. And I felt like I had it when I was young and hopefully still got it. I haven't competed in a little bit, but it's always been my nature. And I really attribute it a lot to karate as well because it's a discipline at a young age, like 6 years old doing karate. I mean, it really builds your mental character. Like karate and golf are really like two disciplines when merged together, really builds a pretty like high level human being. So I don't know. I'm just very grateful I stumbled upon it and just very driven to do it.
One of my biggest regrets is not doing karate. My dad, I remember when I was a kid, offered to like enroll me, and I don't know why I said no. And I'm like, man, I probably wouldn't have been this fat little kid, and I would have learned how to defend myself. Apparently, I might have helped my golf game. So yeah, that's definitely a regret of mine. So I'm jealous you got that, and you're just crushing it at golf. Did you ever have burnout when you were like, middle school or high school, like college, or was it just like you've always just loved the game and never really looked back?
Yeah, I always loved it, man. I always wanted to be there. I know burnout is a real thing, and I didn't really feel it honestly until I would say like kind of like my pro golf days. But when I was playing junior golf, like I was competing all the time. Like since I was always like either winning or within like the top, like I was just motivated to get back out there and do it again, do it again, do it again. So I don't know. I had a lot of drive, had a lot of motivation growing up. And I attribute it a lot, like I said, to my dad. He's an athlete himself. He's pretty hard on me growing up, but I wouldn't have traded it for anything else. I think it built me with who I am today.
Yeah, Tiger's dad was pretty hard on him. It worked out pretty well too, you know. So you gotta
Yeah.
have that inspiration and that, you know, it's better to have someone I think pushing you a little bit sometimes and staying on top of it. And obviously it's worked out really well for you. And what was that transition like for like when you decided because you went to school, you said, and then at what point were you like, hey, I'm gonna turn pro?
Well, when I went to UCF, Division One school, like I always thought as a junior, and hopefully some junior golfers are listening to this, like my dream as a junior golfer was, hey, like I got to secure a Division One, scholarship and then, turn pro. That was like the whole dream that I had. And once I got that D1 offer, I was like, wow, like I'm doing it. Like this is happening. And I went to college and it wasn't what I thought it was. It was also during COVID, so it was a bit of a weird year. But during that time, I started to reflect a lot on myself. I went into a lot of personal growth, personal development. I wanted to find an edge in outside of the golf course, and I just like connected to something bigger than myself. And I was like, wow, like life is beautiful. Like there's so much to explore. And I just continued to play, and I was playing the worst golf of my life. I don't think I broke 80 in college. Like it was bad. And it came from like I was playing great, really high level golf to then like getting smacked in the face there, and it felt like a culture shock. Um
What
so
do you
I
think
ended
that
up
was? Was it the courses or just the change of pace or what do you think attributed? I mean, because you've been crushing it since you were, 3 years old. Like what do you think was the biggest change when you got into college golf?
Yeah, I was struggling to adapt to the environment with the teammates and the coach and everything. It felt like for example, like the first college practice I went to, I got kicked out because I was a minute late, and that kind of like triggered me a little bit because I was like, okay, like these are the big guys, and now I'm getting kind of like pushed around here. I'm not used to that, and
Hmm.
it was tough. I never really like recovered from it. And even though I was, like I said, doing a lot of self-reflection, uh, like meditation, journaling, yoga, all these things I never did before. When I didn't care about this. I would just go out and like play golf. Now I like really cared about this because I'm like, okay, like I got to do something different. I started to change things up, and it was a great moment for me personally. Like I felt like I grew a lot, but I definitely went through the dark valley in my golf game. So it's just something I needed to adapt to, and I decided to leave college because I felt like it was just a little too much at that point, and maybe a new change was the right decision for me. My parents supported me, thankfully, and I was very driven by a purpose that was bigger than myself. I didn't know what it was. And then I turned pro, and I turned pro because my golf coach for over 5 years, Jim McLean, he told me, hey, now that you're not in college, you should turn pro and play. But I actually wanted to spend some time just working on my game and getting it back to where I felt like it was. But I turned pro, played some events, and started doing some content. And then like the content started to kind of take off, and one thing led to another, and now I'm like, I found my purpose. I found like what I was craving at that moment that I didn't really know what it was. Uh, and I realized, oh, like, the game of golf has given me so much. It's time to give back now.
Yeah, that's a cool story. Sometimes you got to just take a leap and hope that your karma or belief or whatever it is will catch up and help you out a little bit. Sometimes it starts though by taking that risk, and I'm sure it felt weird, going dropping out of college, and like you said, it was something you'd probably thought about your whole life, and then all of a sudden to do it, it's probably not easy. So congrats on that. And even before we get into all you're doing now, what was that like working with Jim McLean? I mean, one of the most iconic coaches out there. I mean, how cool is that?
Oh, it was amazing, man. And to touch on what you said, you have to take a leap in life. Like, regardless of where you're at, if you want to get it to the next level, take the leap and like don't be afraid to fail. But back to the Jim McLean thing, he really inspired me. Like I was taking some classes with some other instructors in the academy. He was over at the Raw, which was my home course, and he saw me hitting balls one day, and he was like, "Hey, like I want to help you out." Like he came to me and kind of supported me. Like it took me under his wing. Um, and I didn't have the resources to pay for his lessons or anything, but he kind of sponsored me through his coaching. And 2 weeks later, I won my first AJGA, which was a big national tournament. And it was just like what I realized it's kind of like the Butch effect that people talk about, where, you get, inspired, like this guy actually believes in me. He's like, you can make it. And I'm like, yeah, I can make it. And I ended up winning that tournament at Bay Hill by 6 shots. And it was just one of those things that I was like, all right, like he really sparked me, and we didn't work on much. He really just instilled more self-belief in me because he knew I had a lot of talent inside of me.
Mhm.
Super grateful for Jim to this day.
That's amazing. By the way, Bay Hill sounds it seems like such a great course. So to do it there, and it is funny, like when like even really good players like yourself, so when they're getting like high level coaching like that, it's not usually super mechanical stuff, right? Like when Ricky Fowler was struggling, then he went back to Butch and got some stuff figured out there. But like in general, it's usually just like you said, they're instilling belief. Like they see it before you do sometimes, and that gives you the belief in yourself, and then you go and do it immediately, like the next tournament. That had to be pretty cool to see how quickly that can kind of take place. And I think that that's why I started this brand, is to like help people believe in themselves and understand that there's so much more than just creating a perfect golf swing, right? It really is about believing that you can do it. It is, of course, putting in the work, and you need to do all the things that we talk about, but it really does come down to believing in yourself first and foremost.
100%, man. You got to harness the power of your mind. And like what he was really good at was like doing that, but also really just touching on the basics, like helping me understand how to think like a golfer, like a high level golfer. Um, and he had just so much credibility that I was like, I mean, he's seen it. Like he's telling me I can do it. So like I can do it. And it's like, what's stopping you from telling you that? And that's what kind of like is the whole thing. Um, but yeah, definitely. You got to believe it. And I feel like a lot of people struggle with belief, struggle to understand like what it really means to believe in yourself. Uh, and it's a process. You got to go through a lot of things to really like let go of stuff and actually fully believe in yourself. It's a whole journey.
Yeah, it is a process too. I'm glad you said that. Like, meditation is a practice, right? Like changing your golf swing is takes work. Like, it's not just a one-time thing. And in my new book, I actually reference some cool studies in there, and they're talking about different individuals and growing up. We really get our belief system kind of built at an early age, and it was going to show that like how many households are more negative than positive, and just how much more negative stuff they hear, and how that creates a very negative self-image, and that can go right into your adulthood if you're not careful. And so it's just interesting to see how one thing from one person can sometimes flip that whole system and allow you to do it. But like you said, you have to consistently do it, right? It's not like one day you're like, I'm going to be a great golfer, I'm going to break 80, or I'm going to be a scratch, or whatever your goal is, and like it just happens, right? So it really is like that belief and that consistency, I think, above all else, to stay connected, as you will, with your journey. When you were working with Jim and you guys are like going through this stuff, you see it, was that before or after you won the 2021 USGA Four-Ball?
That was before, yeah.
Okay.
I won the four ball actually. So funny enough, this is a great story. I won it right after I dropped out of college when I was playing the worst golf of my life.
That is
And that's what
wild.
goes
So
back to the thing where it's like you got to make a leap. Like when you take the leap, like life just rewards you because it's like wow, like there's not that many people that believe in themselves to that point to be like, all right, I'm ready to let that go, even though everybody's going down that lane to create my own path. I'm just a huge believer in that.
yeah, that's so true. I can't believe the timing of that too, to go from, like you said,
Yeah.
struggling to break 80, just probably were down and out about your game, and then all of a sudden you go and then win the biggest amateur event you could win. What was that whole process like? Did you I know obviously it's a, for anyone that doesn't know, it's a partner event, best ball. What was your partner like? Had you guys played together? Take us through that whole process, because that's, I mean, that's as big a win as you're gonna get.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was the first ever USGA event I've ever qualified for. And my
Oh,
partner
set the bar
was
pretty high, man.
I know. My partner he now plays at Arizona State. Great player, Kiko Coelho. I mean, just such a consistent golfer. And he actually gave me a lot of confidence because I'm like, I know this guy's gonna be in play, so I can just play free golf and like attack. And man, we just played really well in the stroke play. Was the eighth seed. got into the match play. And the first match, we were down two with like three to play and ended up tying the match and winning it on the third extra hole.
Mm.
And it was one of those things. It was rainy, all that, but we just really pulled through and got one match after another and ended up beating the number one seed, David Ford, who's now I think one of the best players, amateur players in the world right now, and Kelly Chin. And once we beat them, I was like, all right, this is like something's happening here. And for the final match, I mean, this was one of the biggest moments of my life. To this day. We were two up with four to play, and our playing competitor made a 20-footer on 15 and 17 to tie the match. And like all of a sudden, it's like, okay, we got a ball game. This guy hits driver on 18 at Chambers Bay, which is a big par five. And my partner's out of it. The other guy's out of it. I'm in it, and I laid up to like about 90 yards, and I hit this wedge over to about 15 to 20 feet just right of the hole. And I'm walking up because this guy hit driver to the front edge of the green. Like he's chipping, but it's like a 45-yard chip shot. And I'm walking up, I'm telling her this is going in, this is going in, this is going in, this is going in. Like just like brainwashing me. Like I have no other option, but this needs to go in. Because we didn't play 100 and something holes to just lose it on the last. This guy hits the chip shot, Mike, and he hits the center of the flagstick and 360 lips out.
Oh my
But
God.
the second that happened, anybody would have been what you just did. Oh my God. Like, how? I saw it as an opportunity. I saw
Yeah.
it as a gift. I was like, this is my chance. And it was at that moment. It was like that instant reaction. It was just intuitive, like this is my moment. Instead of like, oh wow, like, now I have to make this. And I was as nervous as can be. I was shaking over that putt. And, I really just immersed myself into the process of hitting the shot. I didn't think about it. I just took my two practice swings, one look, took it back and drained the putt on 18 to extend it to extra holes. And I ended up birdieing, me and my partner both birdied the 19th hole, and the other guy missed a 5-footer for birdie. And we took home the dub. But it was one of those things that
Dang.
was just, I was in the plane going back and somebody videoed that putt. I still have the video. And I was replaying it the whole time on the plane, just like, wow, like just getting chills. Like that just happened. Like, wow, that's amazing. I was so grateful for the experience.
Man, that is so cool. So yeah, Chambers Bay is a tough golf course from everything I've seen. I've never played there, but just watching it, the US Open when it was there, I mean, it just looks like a tough course too. So we got to break down a couple parts of that because there's a lot of wicked smart wisdom in there. So first off, the guy hit driver on 18. Well done to that guy. That takes some balls to hit driver on the last
Yeah,
hole
he's
of
a
a
beast.
big match. So that's impressive there. But then to chip it and then it doesn't go in. I love that your mindset is this is my opportunity. Like that's awesome, right? Like that's what you have to have. And match play, like anything can happen. So I love that you went into, okay, this is my time. And then you said that you stuck to your process. So how important is your routine when you're under pressure?
Dude, it's crucial. Like I can't tell you, like I literally was shaking like over that putt. And I was like, wow, like I can't think anything in this moment. Like there's nothing I can do. I have to just hit this putt. And I just went back into remembering all the times that I've hit a putt, with the same routine. Because when I practice my routine. I hit different shots, but I'm always practicing my routine. And I had a lot of belief in the putt, even though I was a little worried it wasn't gonna go in because this is for the championship. But at the same time, like I just didn't allow those thoughts to get in. I just went up, looked it, and hit it. And just believed in it and went through the process very deliberately. Like I didn't allow myself to not for it not to happen. Like I was like, I'm gonna do everything in my power for this putt to go in, and let the rest take care of itself. And life has a great way of rewarding you when you do the right things, man.
Yeah, I mean it's just I love that you even said you were like shaking, right? Like you're so nervous, but you still stuck with it. So that way your mind is still like, oh, we've done this a million times, right? Like I always stress that to people, like do the same thing so you have the same mental thoughts as well. And if like you're not getting into that panic mode or like, oh, I have to make this, or you're gonna linger over the putt because you think that's the way to do it. Like you did exactly like you said, two practice strokes, looked at the hole, you went, it went in. I mean, that just goes to show again just the power of routines and staying with it and not changing it up on the biggest stage.
Yeah, and you can't think in that moment. There's nothing you can think that's going to make it any better. You just have to remember. And that's a big one. You just got to remember because the body's going nuts. Like it's in full on fight or flight mode. And there's nothing stopping it. That's normal. It's going to happen. And the more time you give yourself to think about it and to make sure you're going to do it right, it's just not going to work. Believe it.
Hmm.
You put in the work and let it happen.
Yeah, and I think you said that too. Put in the work. Like I always tell people, you got to believe, but it's a lot easier to believe in yourself when you know you have the hours put in to actually know it. It's like yes, you want to believe, but if you only practice an hour a week, like it's probably not going to be nearly as strong as if you're consistent and you have a routine and you stick with it. What do you do during the round? Like when you're feeling that you're playing in the USGA massive event, tough golf course. What are some mid-round mental hacks that you kind of channeled during that one, or even any of the other tournaments that you feel like can help the everyday golfer?
Yeah, body composure, like really how you compose yourself throughout the round. Good posture with your body as you're walking through, breathing through the nose, and constantly just that positive narrative in your mind. It's so important to just continue to you are the creator of your own reality. You're the narrator of your story. What is that story going to be? Like you have a choice. You either live by choice or you live by chance. I live by choice, and I'm making the choice to believe in myself and to go out there and give it my all. So that's kind of the main things. Be in the moment by breathing, believe in yourself, and don't let your playing competitors know that you're down. Like you're always up, regardless of where you're at.
Have you always had such a positive attitude like when you were younger? I mean, I know a lot of junior golfers really struggle with, anger and frustration and club throws and negative self-talk. Is that something you've kind of battled, or you just feel like you've had that from a young age?
No, I've always been a very like angry golfer. Not like in the sense of yeah, like I've broken clubs and stuff. Like I don't see myself necessarily as like positive is the right word, but more of like a warrior. Like a warrior, you're going out there, you're resilient, you're gritty. If you get pissed, you get pissed, but then you're able to like get over it. It's fine to get pissed. I think people like think that, and I actually made that mistake in college where I was like avoiding getting pissed because I would get mad a lot, like when I was playing. But I was good at like channeling that energy for positive things. But like it's good to get pissed. Like if you're feeling angry, like let it out and like make sure like it's not gonna happen again because that emotion is telling you something. But if you eat it up, it's just gonna blow up at some point. And that's the worst thing you can do. So I'm always very expressive with my emotions. I think it's good, but then you just gotta let it go and just keep going.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective. I had Colin Morikawa's coach, mental coach, on earlier in the year, and he said that don't run away from your emotions. Like make sure you process them. Like he said, otherwise they can turn out to be that blow up hole. Because if you keep suppressing it, and then you just finally hit some bad shot, you just freak out, and then it's really hard to bounce back from that. So I'm glad you kind of brought that up too. What about your practice habits? I know that obviously you've had a good mental game. It sounds like for a while, but like I kind of mentioned, like you gotta to believe in yourself, you got to put in the work. So what is, some practice habits you think that separates you and from other players, and what are some things that everyday golfers can do just to make the most of their practice?
Yeah, I love getting into this, man, because with practice, like I said, I love practicing, my routine. And when I'm out there, I'm very, very intentional and mindful. Like I'm not distracted, trying to do other things while practicing. It's not about the time you're there, it's about the quality of the time. So when you're actually out there practicing, it's super important to understand that you might have a putt on the 18th hole, for a big tournament that you got to make. And you're not feeling as nervous right now during practice as you would there, but what would you do if you would? And hit every single putt like that. and you'll realize how much better you'll get. It's really understanding how to like be intentional with every shot that you're hitting, quality over quantity. And to me, like the game of golf is a personal development tool. Like it's something where like when you go out there, it's like a yoga. Like you're intentional with the way your body is moving. You're mindful. You slow down. Like a lot of people are just too quick. Like they're very impatient and they want to get it right away. Like and they get frustrated, which is fine, but like they just never progress because they want it right away. They never slow down. And I feel like the biggest thing I would tell like a recreational golfer hearing this, like maybe you're struggling to break 80 or something, like slow down your swing when you're practicing. Like understand the micro movements of your body as you're going through, just to have an understanding. Like guesswork is for amateurs. And that's what I say all the time. Like if you want to play at an elite level, like there's no need to be guessing. You can go out there by yourself on the chipping green and just hit some slow chip shots and just understand like what is the club face? What is my body doing? And then that's a part of it, but then you add the routine to it where it's like now you're hitting shots decisively. You're not allowing other thoughts to get in the way. And practicing that is important. It's not just a matter of like, oh, I'm a decisive guy, but then you think different thoughts for every shot. Like I think the same thoughts for each one of my shots. Like my pre-shot routine is very, deliberately put together where I go through a process that I walk through where I don't allow myself to think other thoughts because I'm directing my thought. And that's the whole point. Like, if you want to play effortless golf, you got to be able to direct your thoughts. And having a plan for your thoughts, in my opinion, is a recipe for success.
Man, I couldn't agree more. You got some wisdom in you for only 22 years old, by the way. I gotta give you a shout out there for the intentionality that you bring to practice that I think everyone can benefit from. And just to kind of expand on that, I remember when your guy Landon was on the show earlier in the year, and he helped me with my putting a ton. And we were talking about swing thoughts and swing feels, and he said that he likes swing feels versus thoughts because he doesn't want to get too mechanical and wants to be more connected to the subconscious, if you will. What are some feels or thoughts there? You said your mental thoughts are kind of mapped out. Like, what does that look like? Is there a certain dialogue that you're going through in your head, or like what is it that you're saying, or what do you think people should be saying kind of during that routine?
Yeah. I mean, I'll walk you through what I do. My first phase is all about like, so the first thing I do is I take a breath in through my nose, out through my mouth, longer exhale than an inhale just to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So like, physiologically, my body is now more relaxed than it was, before I took the breath. And then I stare at the target and really just visualize the ball going there. I make sure to like really hone in my focus, like really tunnel vision. Like, all right, like my awareness is narrowing in because the more narrowed in I am to a small target out there, the narrower my misses will be. Um, and then I tell myself stay connected in my mind as a mental cue to make myself go into subconscious mode. And actually, me and Landon were both talking about this. Like an archer, in archery, they're extending the bow, and one thing they did in the study was like the guy, like they would say something like "let it go" or "let's go," whatever it is, and that would trigger them to go subconscious into into the motion. So having a cue, like something you tell yourself that triggers you to get into that mode is very important. So I say stay connected. And as I'm walking in, I walk up, looking at the target. I find a dimple on the ball to really narrow my focus and find my center. So the first priority is to find your center of gravity and like really like get into a good posture, feel like you're centered. And then I trace a line from the ball to the hole, from the hole to the ball to really feel like my alignment was on point. Um, and then I take a look at the hole, and this is a very important part. When I take that second look, I take a snapshot of the hole in my mind, and then I find the dimple that I originally went through first. And as my mind is focused on the dimple, I'm also remembering the photo of the shot or of the target in my mind. And all I'm thinking about is that picture. And swing into the picture. Tiger Woods talks about it all the time. Really swing into the picture while keeping my mind really focused on a small part of the golf ball. That keeps my body very centered as my mind is connected to the shot that I'm hitting. And then when I pull it off, like when I actually, swing, I mean, I have a trigger in my swing where I really just transfer my weight over to my right heel, and then I just, one piece takeaway. I set my hands at the top, and then I pull the button of the club to the finish. That's kind of my feel. But I'm really just thinking, when I'm actually on the golf course, rhythm. And this is something my dad taught me since I was little, like one and a two. Like when I think of that, and I keep my mind focused on the ball while it's also remembering the picture, like you're gonna hit great golf shots. If anybody like implements that like right away, you're gonna start to see like way better shots. And I just focus on like staying in rhythm and staying in balance. Like crazy how like just staying in balance is a direct feedback. That's all you need to know. And I hold my finish and I really just I try to be I try to appreciate every shot the way it comes, but the appreciation doesn't come from the result. It comes from the fact that I executed the exact process that I just walked you guys through, effortlessly and well. Like it feels good when I do that. And that's how I believe everybody can really, recreate these feelings of bliss and gratitude in any shot they hit, regardless of the outcome. Because it's like it's about your ability to go through the process that really, recreates that feeling of that shot we all crave. But it's really that process we can all recreate. So yeah.
We really, yeah, that was a master class right there on what to be thinking about. Seriously, I talk about routine so much, and it's so nice to hear it from in different perspectives and the way you walked us through it. And you also touched on gratitude. That's the when you open up Wicked Smart Golf, that's the first chapter in the book is have an attitude of gratitude. And like you said, when you have the process, it makes it easier to not care about the results because you're just focused on going through each of those steps like you talked about, and that sets you up for success. And then if stuff happens or you're still gonna hit bad shots, it's golf, right? But at least you can like sleep at night knowing like, hey, I stuck to my process. Like of course there's variabilities with golf, but to be able to know you have that like step by step system. But then like you said, you have it all, but then you practice it. So that's so what I want people to hear. It's like, yeah, having a routine is great, but practice it so that way it's like showing up for you on the course.
Yeah, and it's about developing a relationship with the game because it's like when you do that, like you're gonna feel it. Like people are going for that instant gratification all the time in life and in golf as well. But when you really find fulfillment, like it can happen right here, right now, and that next shot you hit, if you really walk through that process we talked about, and that's my process. I mean, everybody else has a different process and way of doing things, but at the end of the day, it's like when you find your thing, like you don't want to get away from that because, feeling whole feels freaking good. And like you want to keep doing that, keep doing like going through that process and you start to feel like invincible because, it's like it doesn't matter what's happening around me, like whatever the scenario is, whether it's the last putt on the 18th hole to win the US Four-Ball or, a putt on the putting green, like I'm going through the same process and it's awesome.
Well, you're on the course a lot too. I know you're filming a lot of content. You're out there teaching, you're working. Like, how many times do you see people actually stopping and doing their routine? Like,
They
never,
have
right?
I mean, I feel like some people have a routine. They all have like their routine, their way of doing it, but like their focus is still like on the outcomes. And
Mm.
that's where it's like there's people are they're putting way too much stress in their life and in their games like by doing so. Like if they really just understood how good it feels to actually have like their focus on the process, and it's hard for people to do. I don't know why, but I guess it's just because it's a hard game and people want to get better at it and they feel like they just got to get it. But I feel like that narrative needs to change for some people. It really needs to click because once it does, like you don't want to go back like me and you are doing.
Hmm. When you were in your slump there, or when you were kind of struggling in college, and then turned it around and had this epic kind of turnaround in such a short time, and obviously you had it with Jim as well. Like, do you have, it seems like you really know your mental game well. You know your strengths, you know yourself. Like you said, golf is a self-development journey. Do you feel like is this something you've ever like written down in a golf journal? Like I'm doing this, this, and this, or when things go bad, I have this, like, or is this something that's just living up here?
Yeah, actually, I developed an ebook I give away for free. Anybody that goes to the connectedgolfer.com, like they'll find it. It's called the Connected Golfer Manual. I had to do it to just really understand not only my thought process on a shot, but how I approach golf as a whole. Like
Mm-hmm.
what I would do, like from point A to point Z, like how I think about the game and like a manual that I will be personally using for the rest of my life. Because the principles that I apply in there, it really helps people like realize their journey, optimize their practice, and maximize their performance. It's kind of like the framework that I go through. And once I wrote that, and that was after I won the four ball and everything, and I was a pro, and I was already like the connected golfer. But I mean, that's when it clicked.
Mm-hmm.
And after I truly believe that when you build those resources out for yourself, like you level up and you really understand yourself on a deeper level. But I needed to do that to really get to that level.
Yeah. It's funny. I feel the same way, man. Like my book and this next book, like I feel like so much better about my process as well when you kind of just get it out there. Sometimes too much stuff's living up here, and so you got to like kind of get it out and make it easy, and then that can obviously help others, which is so cool. And we'll make sure to link to your resource there that you have. And then what was that process like when you're like, hey, you know what? I'm loving this. Like I'm going to turn pro. I'm going to get into content creation. That's a pretty cool story. We briefly touched on it when me and you chatted a couple weeks ago. Tell us kind of what that transition was like from winning the four ball to deciding to turn pro.
Yeah, I decided to turn pro because Jim McClain told me I should do it, even though I wanted to just kind of like practice and get better. And I I went through the process and I started to just feel like, damn, like this kind of sucks. Cause I like pro golf sucks in the beginning. Like mini tour events and all that. Like I'm personally not a fan of them.
It's just a hard process. I mean, for everyone, right? I mean, it's expensive. You're traveling. It's not easy.
Yeah, it was difficult. So I started to find more of a passion because like with golf, like with pro golf, you don't get paid like for the hours. You get paid by the results. So I felt like, just go out and practice, make it happen. And like all these mini tours, like you're just playing for money, but like I really wanted to play for like when I was playing junior golf, it was like to get my ranking better, it was to get up there. Like it wasn't the same for pro golf until Q school. Um, so yeah, I found the passion for content because it felt like I was constantly growing. It felt like, okay, like I'm constantly adding some sort of value and continuing to like see, better and better results. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like this is fun. And it helps me because I'm giving back and I'm also understanding my game on a deeper level. But pro golf is, I mean, I started playing at the Dominican Republic. I played this tour over there to try to get a spot on the PGA Tour event there. And I played like 5 events or so. I came a little late in the season, so I didn't really have a chance to win it, but it was cool like to have the experience of traveling and everything. Um, Played some mini tour stuff, but really like didn't dive too deep into it. I wasn't a fan, to be honest. I felt like something was off, and I wanted to continue to follow my heart and like where it was going. And I really like found a passion for content, and then I started growing my following, and I was already at like 70K or so, and I had a guy end up like wanting to sponsor me after 2 years of like not finding anybody or anything, just kind of
So you
scrapping
originally
around.
started the content side to not only share your growth, but also to maybe attract some sponsors.
Yeah, it was really just to attract sponsors. I didn't really like care about anything else. And like I didn't even know about this stuff. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I'm never gonna be a creator. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Uh and I started to find a passion in it. And then the guy who ended up sponsoring me at the beginning of this year, he found me like not through content. He was just a member at the RAL that like he had a lot of money and wanted to help a player and played a lot of rounds with him. He ended up getting a round with me and John Daly, which was sick, in December of last year. And John was a huge fan of my game and everything. And like that kind of like pushed the needle for him to make the decision to really back me. Um, and I was playing, I played it some month. I really took it seriously then. I moved over to West Palm Beach. I practiced at the Floridian with this team. Floridian, for those of you guys that don't know, is like one of the nicest courses in the world. And the facility is like with Claude Harmon, Butch Harmon has this facility there. Um, It was great. I learned a ton. I got through one of the Monday qualifiers. I played like five of them at the time, and in April, I ended up from one of the guys at the Floridian. He connected us with Trump, and I ended up playing a round of golf with Trump, which was sick. And I played a great round with him, and he was very supportive. It was just so cool. And then it got to a point where my sponsor knew I was doing all the content and stuff and said, hey, like you got to pick one or the other. You can't do both. I'm not going to support you if you do both. And that's another d decision I had to make in life where I was like, all right, like I'm in this like, you know, point in life where if I go left, I'm going left. If I go right, I'm going right. And I decided to go down the content route, even though my dream was always to play pro golf. I mean, I was having enough money to play for the next 2 years, like guaranteed.
Mm.
Um, and it was kind of it was a crazy decision that I made, but again, I just trusted my heart and like was like, I don't know why, but I feel like there's something down this road that is gonna make sense one day. And I don't want to be ordinary. I don't want to continue to do the same things others are doing. And even though I'm getting this opportunity, maybe it's not the best thing for me. And because it is tough. Like that life is not easy. And I was getting some success with my content and everything, and I really wanted to really see what was at the end of that and what is the opportunities that were going to come up from that. And I had to make the choice to go there, and now that was in April. So now, like since then, been doing that and continuing to grow and maximize my opportunities from that.
I love the theme that I'm getting throughout this is just listening to your intuition. I think that's just so key, and so many people ignore it, and then they end up with regrets and doubting yourself. And it's like, yeah, it's going to be rough sometimes, but man, it's cool when it all kind of pays out, and you just get to see that you're doing something that only maybe you can see sometimes. In the beginning at least. Then it helps when you have John Daly and Trump telling you that you're a good player too. What was it like playing with each of those guys? Let's start with JD because everybody loves JD.
Bro, JD's the man. It was so cool. We walk up to the first tee, he's barefoot, smoking a cigarette, no warm up, just like slams his driver on the floor like twice and pipes it down the middle like 260 or 280 or something. Like it was awesome. And then we played the round, had a
So is
ton
he
of
just
fun.
chain smoking all day, drinking Diet Cokes?
Yeah,
Or yeah,
yeah, yeah. And it was yeah, it's exactly what you know John Daly to be. But man, he was super supportive. Like he really liked my game and what I was doing, and he was really like helping me out with this sponsor guy because he was like, hey, you gotta help this kid. Like he's got potential to do it and everything. Which was again like another like kind of Jim McClain moment. Like it was like that's super inspiring. Like thank you. Like that's awesome. And yeah, he's just a great guy. He was super fun to be around. And I played with Johnny Damon that day too. It was John Daly and Johnny Damon in the same group. And
wow.
it was just one of those magical moments that I knew when I was playing. I'm like, this is a rare moment in life. I better cherish this.
That's amazing. How'd you play that day?
It was a scramble, so I don't know what I shot, but I
Okay.
played well. Like I hit a lot of good shots, and like I said, John was like super supportive. He even called like Callaway like during the round. He was like, "Yeah, you gotta fit this guy." Like he called Rick Smith, which was another like golf instructor.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's one of those things too. Like those are the moments I love. Like I love being put on those spots like where you have to like exhibit your skills in front of talent like that. Like it was just so cool. And I was happy I was able to execute.
That's fantastic. And obviously playing with Trump, you got Secret Service. You're actually the second person I know that has played with him, which is wild. I never thought I'd know two people that have played with him. So what was that experience like just from like the perspective of like the security and everything out there? Obviously we'll get into his game and stuff. It is election day since we're on the day we're recording this. But I mean, what was that even like from like the moment you met him to playing?
Dude, we had breakfast with him, and he was such a nice guy, like breaking the ice. Like he like we chatted. Uh, and he was witty. He was very he's told a lot of stories. Like he was talking about like when he met Jack Nicklaus or he knows Jack Nicklaus and he's like, "Oh, it's all about putting. It's all about putting." And yeah, and we ended up playing and we had set the groups and he found out I won the four ball and I wasn't in his group initially and we were in the range. I was in some shots and he's like, "I want you on my team. Like let's Like let's do me, you, and this other guy versus the other two. And we were playing against this other guy. He wanted to sponsor, I think. And I think like that was the intention of him being there. And he sponsors people by giving them access to his golf course. And his name's Chase Johnson. I think he's on the PGA Tour. And he's a great guy, great player too. And ended up playing with Trump on my team, and we played at Trump Palm Beach, and I shot 67, and we won by two shots.
Nice.
I didn't miss a shot. I don't know what happened. I didn't miss a shot. Like it was one of those things that again is like put on the moment where it's like this is your time to shine. Like he wasn't even like considering like he was just considering the other guy, and at the end, like he also gave me the opportunity to like play and practice at his course, even though I'm not really allowed to say it. But I haven't gone back. But I was just grateful for the opportunity to do it, and he is a great guy, and I played really well, and he played pretty good. He doesn't miss a fairway, and like he's a solid player. Just kind of bunts it out there like pretty straight.
Yeah, after watching him with on Bryson, it's like people know people, love and hate him, but it's like you can't hate that game, man. He's like almost 80 years old, just hitting it down the fairway,
Yeah.
making putts and playing his game. I mean, that's part of golf. What is it like to play with Secret Service there?
Yeah, it was. I had my girlfriend out there, and she was just kind of watching, and like she was like, saying it all the time. It's like there's people everywhere, just like in the bushes, like all over the place, and yeah, it was cool. I didn't think much about it. Like I kind of expected it. We just weren't allowed to like take pictures of him or film him or anything.
That's what I was just gonna ask. I imagine that you can't have your phone out.
Yeah, and that's how I actually got kind of screwed. I took a picture of him when we were in breakfast. I was like, I'm having breakfast with Donald Trump. I'm gonna snag a picture because I thought it was no videos, and uh, apparently that got around the Trump organization, and it wasn't didn't
What
end up too well. So,
wasn't well received, huh?
but either way, I'm never gonna take away that experience.
Yeah, man.
It was
That's
priceless.
that's I was gonna say. I don't know how you top playing with JD and Trump. Those are two of the biggest names out there. I feel like anyone else you have on your bucket list that you'd love to tee it up with?
Tiger, obviously. Hopefully one day that happens. But yeah, I don't know. I would say Tiger is the only guy I would want to play with. I mean, if I play with anybody else, that'd be great. But uh, yeah, Tiger's one I would love to play with.
I know, man. It's such a shame with all the injuries and how it's all worked because he's the reason I got into golf. I mean, when I was 12 years old, 13 years old, that's when he won the 97, his first Masters and just lapped the field. And I was like, oh man, I want to play golf. Like this is obviously I got my canvas back there. So it's just so sad to see him with those injuries. I wanted him to break that record. I mean, you talk about like, we were talking about intention and intuition, like the fact that he had Jack's records up on his wall as a kid, like that's just putting out your intention out into the world. Like that's so cool. I really think if he didn't have those injuries, he'd have 20 plus majors. It's
Yeah.
tough to see.
Yeah. No, and that's the power of setting the intention right there. Like a lot of the stuff that I ended up attracting into my life was no coincidence for me either. Like I really set an intention to go big and like attract the right people into my life to help me fulfill what I wanted to. And I feel like I'm always protected and guided at all times. And just got to keep going and trust in the process. Like there's really something behind the scenes that's working on your favor if you work with his favor, his or her favor.
Yeah, love it, man. Well, before getting into my last question, to share more about your business, what you're doing to help golfers. I know you're growing like crazy, and I have no doubts you're going to crush it. But tell us more a little bit about that and how people can follow and connect with you.
Yeah, so now I'm focused on helping competitive junior golfers. I feel like it's fitting. I'm 22 years old. So like even though I help a couple like, older guys with their game, like my bread and butter is with these junior golfers, helping them on the mental side. I feel like it's very underserved, and I feel like I can really inspire these kids to go big. And there's a new era, emerging in the game of golf right now, and the way to approach a career as a golfer has changed, and I'm here to just kind of help these kids understand their path and kind of learn from my path and what I've gone through. So I have a school community. We meet once a week, and it's just $97 a month for any competitive junior golfer that wants to get in there. We have a series of online courses that I've built out on how I swing, my thought process, my mental approach, even my lifestyle. I share meditations, workouts, stretching, all that stuff. Everything that I use to be the connected golfer. Well, I'm sharing it in there to help people, help junior golfers go through that path with the least amount of resistance and feel like, they're part of a community. So that's my main focus right now, really scaling that up and getting some juniors involved. And I started a company that does corporate golf experiences. So we have a roster of players that we bring out that, we just did an event at Dominican Republic for a hotel company that brought out their members, and it was a very successful event and looking to continue to do it. So anybody that has a corporation that wants to bring out their clients, we can definitely put that experience together for you guys and bring some pros and enhance the experience with some entertainment. That's what I'm working on right now.
That's fantastic, man. You got your plate full and helping all kinds of golfers from young to old. I love it. That's super cool. We'll make sure to link to everything down in the show notes too. And then for my last question, what is the think the easiest thing that you would recommend for golfers that are trying to break 80 consistently? What's maybe one or two tips that you feel like they could apply and start seeing results pretty quick?
Yeah, I mean the pre-shot routine is the biggest thing. Like if you're struggling to break 80, but like you're shooting like 80, 83, 85, whatever around there, like your swing's decent. It's obviously it can use some work. You need to simplify the way you think of your swing. So I would definitely recommend to find a rhythm that works for you, where you're not thinking of a specific swing thought, you're just finding a cadence. And then when you practice, like practice a routine where you're very intentional and thoughtful of what you're doing and you're being decisive, because that's what's going to translate over to the golf course to help you get the results you want to see. I think it's as simple as routine and rhythm to me. I think that'll help you break 80. Obviously, some course management stuff, like don't go for the pins on par threes, like play to the center of the green. I think the scoring average on the PGA Tour on par threes is like 3.08 or something. I don't know. I get
Hmm.
something around there. And you got to be able to just par them and don't attack those pins. Feel like if you really enhance that and not try to push your game, like play stress-free golf, like just make stress-free decisions and you'll be fine. I feel like that'll definitely help you break 80.
Wicked smart golf approved, man. I love it. Well, I appreciate you sharing so much. You got a great story and a future looks bright for you. So wishing you all the best, man.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Stay connected, guys.